In this video, we have some very interesting AEW and WWE news. There is a star in AEW who may have actually left the company, but AEW could potentially be keeping it quiet. We're not really sure in this regard, but we're going to talk about this interesting rumor. Also, on top of that, WWE has filed for a trademark on a name that is definitely questionable, but there's a lot of speculation that this name could be going to Walter, and that's a problem. Also, WWE reportedly not following up with the plans for Roman Reigns versus Lesnar. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about that. Even if you guys don't watch WWE, I'm going to tell you guys why this could be a big mistake. And if you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button. So we're going to talk about Meltzer's new report on Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, because there was this rumor that WWE was going to move forward with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns main eventing WrestleMania for both championships. Now, Meltzer has reportedly come out and said that there are no plans for that to actually happen. I believe that if this match does not have champion versus champion written all over it, WWE is making the biggest blunder, because WWE has shown us that they have not prepared any new stars to take the belt off of Roman Reigns. And that is the problem when WWE does not create new stars. They start booking matches that are great headlines, but it doesn't actually get anybody over. Like, Roman Reigns could lose to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns isn't finished. But also, I do want to point this out. My belief is this. WWE had Brock Lesnar win that Fatal 5-Way at day one. It obviously created some shock value, which is fine. My belief is that at Royal Rumble, the Usos will take out Brock Lesnar during his match with Lashley, allowing Lashley to win, which I'm cool with. I think Bobby Lashley should go into WrestleMania as the champion. I also think Lashley should drop the title at WrestleMania. But in my opinion, if I'm WWE at WrestleMania, I have Lashley defend that belt in like a 6-man match. I would put Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, maybe even Damian Priest. I would put a whole bunch of people in this match, make it a ladder match for the WWE Championship. This way, Lashley can lose the belt and it's not really going to hurt him. In that same regard, if Lesnar loses the belt at Royal Rumble due to interference, he's going to be protected, of course, and he can go on to WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. In my opinion, Roman Reigns should not lose to Brock Lesnar. And the reason for that is because hopefully from now until SummerSlam, WWE correctly books somebody on SmackDown to eventually become the guy to take down Roman Reigns. That's my opinion. WWE has reportedly filed for a trademark, Gunther Stark. Now, if you do a Google search, you can find out all of this information on who Gunther Stark is. But there's a lot of speculation on social media that Walter could be the one who's getting repackaged as Gunther Stark. I hope that WWE is not considering repackaging Walter. Because I know I have an audience that watches all types of wrestling. And a lot of you don't seem to care about WWE. But a lot of you have watched Walter's matches. You watched Walter versus Ilya Dragunov. You've seen Walter chop everybody in the WWE. Now he's back in the States, and there is these rumors that he is coming to the main roster. But the problem here is not necessarily the trademark. I think that's a problem in its own. But the real problem here that I actually have is this. I think Walter is in a situation where WWE is going to do what they always do with heels and make them a foreign heel. And I think that's a problem. The stereotype needs to end in 2022. It no longer, first of all, it doesn't really even fit the idea of what WWE is anymore. WWE has gone away from storytelling. Back then, they were doing storytelling and they were depicting characters in all different types of stereotypes. Now, that's not really what wrestling is. And also, on top of that, just because somebody's foreign doesn't make them a bad guy. So why do that with somebody like Walter, who could be your top guy? I don't know if you guys watch NXT, but they're airing promos of him making fun of Americans being fat and lazy and this and that. And sure, I understand why they're doing it. But I still just think it's like, This guy's a really good wrestler. You can't find anything else from him. I don't know. It's just weird. If he is being repackaged as Gunther Stark, I think that's over for Walter on WWE's main roster run. In fact, I'm actually scared for Walter being on WWE's main roster when it does eventually happen because I have no faith in WWE. It's weird. Super weird. Nonetheless, guys, our final story of today's video, we are talking about Peter Avalon. Peter Avalon is an AEW wrestler. You might remember him from the Wingmen. You guys might even remember him from the storylines that they did in the beginning of AEW when he was the librarian with Leva Bates. One of those original OG signings for AEW. Now, in today's video, we are discussing whether or not he has stayed with AEW. Maybe he's left AEW. We actually don't know. Peter Avalon revealed on Twitter that his major announcement was that he was taking all indie bookings. Now, that's usually something that a wrestler announces when they depart a company, right? Whether they leave AEW or WWE, they're available for all indie bookings. Now, historically in AEW, if you were signed to AEW, you had the option to take indie bookings, but they had to be approved by Tony Khan. So this is a sign that Peter Avalon could very well have left AEW, at least in a wrestling capacity. Now, AEW seems to keep a lot of their contract information quiet, which is completely fine. Do whatever you want to do. You're not a publicly traded company. But we see so many times AEW taking shots at WWE about stars being released and stuff. I feel like there should be a level of transparency if you have not re-signed somebody to your roster. Or just, confirm, hey, Peter Avalon is still with us. We're just allowing him to take bookings. The reason why I mention this is because AEW, so far, when it comes to any departures, it's either been met with criticism because they themselves came out and spoke negatively about it, or these releases or departures happen due to disciplinary reasons, right? Which is fine. Big Swole did not re-sign the company. She praises the company. Tony Khan says, she wasn't good enough. So to me, my thing is, doesn't have to be controversial. You could just simply respond and say, yes, Peter Avalon is taking indie bookings. We're allowing our wrestlers to do this. It's one of the great flexibilities of AEW, and that's all. Because now nobody really knows if he's actually with AEW or not. And I get it. Some people are going to leave a comment and they're going to say, oh, well, Peter Avalon's not a big deal. He's not a big deal. Look, he might not be a big deal in the grand spectrum of things, but just because his name is not Jon Moxley or Kenny Omega or Cody Rhodes doesn't mean he should be treated differently in that regard. It's just one of those things. I think if you're not re-signing people, you should be public about it, because you talk a lot of shit about WWE doing releases, and I know they're not the same thing, but you being as quiet and not mentioning it or not confirming it, it just seems weird to me. At the end of the day, that's all it is. But I like Peter Avalon. I hope he's still with AEW. I feel like AEW could do stuff with him, whether he's a manager, whether he's a wrestler. I mean, there's things you can do. You just got to make room for all of these new people. Let me know what you guys think in today's in the video section for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.